Hello everyone and welcome to Economic Outlook. I am Luisa Kusnandar with you. Here we bring you the latest economic news and our reviews on the impact of the homecoming tradition on the regional economy. And there will also be a wrap up of the global and local stock markets later on. So let's start. This is Economic Outlook for you. The National Food Agency has prepared several steps to stabilize food prices after Eid al-Fitr holiday in order to ensure inflation stays under control. Indonesia has prepared a strategy to negotiate with the United States government following an announcement of President Donald Trump's high tariff policy on imports from Indonesia. Stock prices on Wall Street dropped on Friday following tariff retaliation by China on imported goods from the United States, which sparked fears of the global trade war. The National Food Agency, or Bappenas, has prepared several steps to stabilize food prices after Eid al-Fitr holiday in order to ensure inflation stays under control. Head of National Food Agency Arief Prasetyo Adi said in Jakarta last Thursday on April the 3rd that Bappenas worked with ministries and institutions to ensure sufficient food supplies a month before Eid Fitr to stabilize food prices. Arief said that Bappenas had increased stocks of staple food, especially rice, to reach almost 2.2 million tons as of now, from 800,000 tons last year. Another strategy to stabilize food prices was to strengthen collaboration with ministries and state institutions, the private sector, regional administration, state and regional-owned enterprises, and food task force. The coordination was expected to ensure an end-to-end stable level of prices from the upstream production side or farmers to the distribution side and end users. Arief explained that the Bappenas always calculated cost structure of food when disseminating information to the public. The agency calculated capital expenditures on the production side of the food to determine proper profit margins for each food commodity.
Sumatera Utara, salah satunya di gudang kita ini. Kita lihat tadi ada gula.
Moving on, state-owned ferry operator PT ASDP Indonesia Ferry has decided to offer discounts ranging from 21% to 36% on Bakauheni Merak crossing service during the return flow of the Eid homecoming tradition. ASDP Corporate Secretary Shelfie Arifin informed on Tuesday that the discount policy for Bakauheni Merak crossing will be valid from noon local time on April 3rd, 2025 to noon local time on April the 7th. Shelfie said that the policy is expected to accommodate people returning to Java Island after celebrating Eid in their hometowns. With the discounts, travelers are encouraged to plan their return trips in advance and take advantage of the discount period to avoid long queues during the peak of the return flow. Shelfie also urged passengers to make ticket reservations through the Ferry Z ticketing application and arrive at the port according to the departure schedule. Based on data from PT ASDP Indonesia Ferry, during the 10 days period before Eid Fitr, or between March 21st to March 31st, a total of 225,400 vehicles left Java to Sumatra via the ports of Merak, Ciwandan, and BBJ Bojonegara. The number reflects a slight decrease of 0.4% compared to 226,299 vehicles during the same period in the previous year. Meanwhile, the total number of passengers increased by 3% to 885,828 people during the 10 days period compared to the 859,699 in the same period last year. State-owned railway company PT KAI has sold 3.4 million train tickets, accounting for 74.22% of the total 4.5 million seats prepared for the 2025 Eid al-Fitr homecoming trips as of March 30th, 2025.
The spokesperson for the state-owned railway company said in Jakarta on Sunday that the train operator provided a total of 4.5 million seats between March 21st to April the 11th for Eid holidaymakers. The number consisted of 3.44 million seats for long-distance trains and 1.14 million seats for local trains. Antara News Agency reported that of the 3.4 million tickets sold, 3.04 million were for long-distance trains with an occupancy rate of 88%, and other 366,082 tickets were for local trains with an occupancy rate of 31.90%. Since the start of Eid Fitr transportation period on March 21st, KAI has served 1.65 million passengers across its operational areas in Java and Sumatra. The stations with highest passenger departures include Pasar Senen Station, Gambir Station, Yogyakarta Station, and Bandung Station. Purba noted that one of the key concerns among travelers during the Eid al-Fitr homecoming is transporting their pets. To address this, KAI, through its subsidiary KAI Logistik, is offering a pet transport service for passengers traveling to their hometowns. She emphasized that KAI remains committed to delivering the best services for passengers while also providing innovative and customer-oriented logistics solutions.
Denpasar, Bali, and Singapore are the most preferred flight destinations during the Eid Fitr homecoming period, according to the Communication Department of the Soekarno-Hatta Airport.
Deputy Communication and Legal Officer of Soekarno-Hatta Airport, M. Holik Muardi, said in Tangerang on Thursday that the most preferred domestic destinations ahead of the Eid Fitr holidays were Denpasar, Surabaya, and Kuala Namu, while Singapore remained the most favored international destinations. However, airlines requested fewer additional flights this year compared to the same period last year, with only 735 extra flights across both domestic and international routes. The Soekarno-Hatta Airport recorded 167,327 passengers on 4 days before Eid Fitr. Out of the total, some 95,326 were departing, while 72,001 were arriving during this period. Muardi said that passenger movements included 42,746 people passing through Terminal 1, with 292 flights accounting for 26.24% of aircraft movement. Terminal 2 saw a movement of 56,512 passengers with 389 flights, reflecting an increase of 34.96%. Meanwhile, Terminal 3 handled 63,000 people with 406 flights. Passenger traffic is steadily increasing across Soekarno-Hatta Airport's terminal areas, with a cumulative count of 167,327 aircraft movements observed during the holiday season. On the 4 days before the Eid holidays, the airport recorded a total of 1,113 aircraft movements, comprising 570 departures and 543 arrivals.
Let's continue economic outlook now. State-owned airport operator Angkasa Pura Indonesia, or InJourney Airports, has opened 70 new flight routes at 9 airports under its management to cater to the rising demand during Eid Fitr holiday. State-owned airport operator Angkasa Pura Indonesia, or Injourney Airports, offered 17 new flight routes available at 9 airports under its management for Eid Fitr holiday. President Director of Injourney Airports, Faik Fahmi, said in Jakarta last Friday that the company added the new routes to accommodate the rising demand of air transportation during Eid Fitr holiday. Faik said 10 domestic and foreign airline companies were involved in the initiative, namely Transnusa, Indonesia Air, Saudia, Garuda Indonesia, Thai Lion Air, Batik Air, China Southern, Wings Air, and Super Air Jet. Several airliners offered direct international flights, such as China Southern, which serve a route from East Java's capital Surabaya to Guangzhou, China, and Indonesia Air Asia from Denpasar, Bali to Darwin, Australia. Meanwhile, the 17 airports which supported the new routes include I Gusti Ngurah Rai International Airport in Bali, Soekarno-Hatta International Airport in Tangerang, Banten, Juanda International Airport in Surabaya, East Java, and Sultan Hasanuddin International Airport in Makassar, South Sulawesi. Mudik, or homecoming, has become an annual tradition that has deep historical roots in the Indonesian culture. Millions of people in the big cities return to their hometowns to celebrate Eid Fitr with their families as well as their relatives. Here's the story.
The homecoming tradition has brought a significant economic impact both on national and regional economies, as the movement of millions of people during Eid holidays or Lebaran has led to a significant increase in demand for transportation and accommodation facilities, as well as demand for food, clothing, and souvenirs. Consequently, the homecoming tradition has led to a significant increase in the inflows of funds from big cities to regions. Travelers not only bring their families, but also cash, so that the money circulation that is usually concentrated in the big cities has become more evenly distributed. Although the impact is temporary, the homecoming tradition provides a stimulus for regional economy. For business people and even small traders, the annual homecoming has become a rare momentum to make profits. The homecoming tradition also has a positive impact on MSMEs. In addition to food, products such as regional specialties, traditional clothing, and souvenirs generally record a significant increase in demand. In addition, the homecoming tradition also boosts regional tourism. Travelers not only celebrate Eid at home, but also go on vacation. Therefore, many tourist attractions are crowded during Eid holidays. The Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, or Kadin, predicts a decline in the economic turnover from the Eid holidays this year, due to the drop in the number of holidaymakers. Based on the survey conducted by the Transportation Policy Agency, the number of homecoming travelers is estimated to reach 146.48 million people, or around 52% of the Indonesian population. The number declines by 24% from 193.6 million people last year. The number consists of 146.48 million people, or equivalent to 36.26 million families, with the assumption of 4 people per family. Kadin's Deputy Chairman Sarman Simanjorang predicts that with the decline in the holidaymakers, the economic turnover from this year's homecoming tradition is projected to fall by 10% to 138 trillion rupiah, or about 8,360 billion US dollars from 157.3 trillion last year. The estimate is based on the assumption that each family brings 3.75 million rupiah in cash. The central government, together with private companies, have actively participated, providing transportation facilities for millions of travelers to ensure safe and convenient trips during the annual Mudik or Exodus. The Transportation Ministry, for example, has provided free homecoming trips for land, sea, and rail transport and offers airfare discounts. Many private companies have also offered free bus transportation services for their employees and the public, not only from Jakarta to other parts of Java, but also to Sumatra. In the future, the local government should also be actively involved in taking the advantage of this homecoming momentum. With good management, the annual homecoming tradition will be able to bring a greater impact on the regional economy.
Let's go to our hot topic of the week. Indonesia has prepared a strategy to negotiate with the United States government following an announcement of President Donald Trump's high tariff policy on imports from Indonesia. The Indonesian government and businesses are ready to negotiate with the United States government regarding a 32% import tariff imposed on Indonesia. According to a statement issued by the Indonesian Foreign Affairs Ministry on Friday, the government would continue communicating with its U.S. counterparts at all levels, including by sending a high-level delegation team to Washington, D.C. to negotiate directly with the U.S. government regarding the tariff measures. Meanwhile, Chairman of Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industri Kadin Indonesia, Anindya Bakri, said Indonesian businesses supported the government on negotiation efforts as Indonesia had a strategic position in terms of geopolitics as well as geoeconomics. Previously, U.S. President Donald Trump announced reciprocal tariffs on imports for about 90 nations, in addition to a 10% across-the-board tax applied to all imports to the U.S. The universal 10% tariffs were implemented over the weekend, while the reciprocal tariffs would be starting on Wednesday, April the 9th.
No, now they'll do anything for us. But we have tariffs, they've been set, and it's going to make our country very rich.
Moving on, a legislator has called on the government to urge the World Trade Organization, or WTO, to overhaul the global trade system and step in to respond to the high import tariff policy imposed by the United States. Said Abdullah, the head of the House of Representatives Budget Committee Banggar, said in Jakarta last Friday that the Indonesian government should ask the World Trade Organization to make policies that create a healthier and fairer global trade environment that sustains global economic growth. Abdullah asserted that the global economic policies should support universal economic interests rather than serve as tools for superpowers to gain unilateral advantages. Indonesia needs to remind the world that the WTO should promote non-discriminatory trade, build international trade capacity, advocate for free trade, and provide a forum for resolving international trade disputes, as been said by Abdullah. The legislator stated that this approach should be pursued alongside efforts to maintain the strength of Indonesia's national economy. He also emphasized the importance of the government identifying alternative markets for Indonesia's export products to maintain the country's trade surplus.
At the same time, they're talking about working positively with Russia. But Donald, they point out that even though you're a very smart guy.
Let's move ahead. The National Economic Council Chairman Luhut Binsar Panjaitan has recently met representatives from the Chambers of Commerce of the United States, the United Kingdom, South Korea, and Indonesia to discuss the country's deregulation plan. The National Economic Council Chairman Luhut Binsar Panjaitan said in his Instagram account last Tuesday that the meeting was not just a routine agenda, but it also served as a valuable opportunity to take a closer look at dynamics in the global economy. Panjaitan acknowledged that the multinational chambers of commerce raised concerns over the need for more concise regulations, noting that regulatory uncertainty has been a major obstacle to their plans for investment and business expansions in Indonesia. He also pointed out that the lack of legal certainty has become problems, not only to new or potential investors, but also to Indonesia's traditional investment partners. Panjaitan said he was aware of these concerns and expectations, saying that the regulations, the simplification of existing rules is key for Indonesia to boost its economy at a favorable pace. Considering this problem, Panjaitan emphasized that the Council would continue to work together with the Coordinating Ministry for Economic Affairs to identify and tackle issues hindering investment realization in the country. The government will provide subsidized homes for citizens with essential profession, including journalists, housing and settlement areas, Minister Marwar Sirait has said.
Speaking to the media after attending an Eid al-Fitr gathering hosted by Investment and Downstream Industry Minister Roslan Roslani in Jakarta on Tuesday evening, Housing and Settlement Areas Minister Marwar Sirait said that the government has also allocated a quota of 20,000 homes to fishermen, laborers and Indonesian migrant workers, as well as journalists. Additionally, Minister Roslani said that 30,000 subsidized residences will be available for health workers, 14,500 to police officers, and 5,000 for soldiers of the Indonesian Army, Antara News Agency reported. Sirait then revealed he would hold discussions with representatives of the mentioned professions to further elaborate on the subsidized home program, under which the government aims to build affordable residences across Indonesia. He said that the government had decided to ease the minimum reserve requirement for the purchase of subsidized and non-subsidized homes, reducing it from 5% to 4%. The decision has been approved by President Prabowo Subianto. Furthermore, the minister said President Prabowo has called for ensuring that subsidized homes are of high quality and accessible exclusively to those who deserve them. In this regard, he emphasized the importance of stakeholders assigned to execute a housing program to refer to data compiled by Statistics Indonesia or BPS on residents eligible to access affordable homes.
Let's go to stock prices now. Stock prices on Wall Street dropped on Friday following tariff retaliation by China on imported goods from the United States, which sparked fears of a global trade war. The Dow Jones Industrial Average dropped 5.5% to 38,314 on Friday, while the S&P 500 nosedived 5.97% to 5,074. The Nasdaq Composite dipped 5.8% to 15,587. China's Commerce Ministry on Friday said that the country would impose a 34% tariff on all U.S. products to retaliate the earlier tariff measures announced by the U.S. President Donald Trump. Analysts said investors were concerned about the impact of a global trade war on long-term economic growth. The fear of an escalating global trade war has pushed the 10-year Treasury yield to fall back below 4% on Friday, as investors flooded into bonds for safety, pushing prices up and rates lower. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell said on Friday that the U.S. new tariff measures were larger than expected, which could trigger higher inflation and slower growth. Analysts and market traders saw volatility would not subside quickly until there was a change in the policy or evidence of real negotiations.
Wiped some 10% off major U.S. stock indexes since Trump announced.
Selling pressure on the Indonesian stock exchange is expected to continue this week as the gloomy outlook on the global economy will likely to continue to cast a shadow on the stock market. The Indonesian stock exchange will resume trading on Tuesday after long Eid Fitri holidays, rising concerns on the heated tension on the world economy following the high import policy imposed by the United States that could further send negative sentiment on the local market. The Jakarta Composite Index ended the week on Thursday, March 27, with an increase of 0.59% to close at 6,510, but analysts said that the fundamentals of Indonesia's stock market remain vulnerable to sell-off pressure. The rupiah exchange rate against the US dollars is expected to weaken this week as global uncertainties continue to add concerns on the worsening of the world economy. The rupiah increased by 0.56% to 16,713 per US dollars on Friday from a day prior. However, the trading of rupiah non-deliverable forward on overseas NDF market dropped by 1.58% to 17,006 per US dollars, the lowest level since the 1998 monetary crisis. Analysts suggested that the government took quick measures to fix its fiscal condition in order to trigger domestic economic growth and alleviate negative impacts of trade war. And that wraps up for Economic Outlook edition for today on TVRI World. Thank you so much. We'll see you again, same time next week. I am Luisa Kusnandar. Have a good day today. Bye-bye.